Afternoon to give us more information.
Yeah, that's new, so we'll hear from them hopefully in about an hour. What I noticed with Alexis there on the ground, did you see 3 or 4 ambulances from other suburban?
Right behind her.
Yeah, I mean, they responded en masse to this, and so first responders they're there. They have who they need there to treat whatever potential victims there are. Chuck Gotti and the I-team just reported. The Kane County coroner.
Probably not.
There it is. You see in the lower the portion of your screen is on the scene of the shooting. Judy, that means at least one person has died.
And our thoughts are with all the families who are affected this afternoon as we continue to gather more information in terms of the identity of those who are involved this afternoon. And Clayton Muhammad with the city of Aurora very clearly wanted to thank the entire community this afternoon for being very patient with all of the first responders and also calling in with their information. Just as John, one of the employees, was providing information, firsthand account to us on the phone, I imagine many of them were providing the same type of information to law enforcement officials to help them along with this investigation.
Live on the left there looks like Illinois state troopers with their long guns, fire departments, police officers. The response was massive to this.
Yeah.
Massive to this. Who was this shooter? We want to know who this shooter was. We had a witness telling us this was his co-worker. This was a person who came to work today, just like the witness John Probst, who we talked to, and then in the middle of their day had a handgun with some sort of green laser on it and opened fire. And then that witness we spoke to on the phone for some time ran for his life with a co-worker.
And you know, John, with his co-workers, are wondering the same thing right now. What happened? He wasn't able to tell us. This employee that we're talking about, if he is indeed the suspected gunman, according to John, was not on suspension, didn't know what kind of dispute he might have had with the company, reported to work like any other normal day at 7 o'clock in the morning, worked alongside his fellow workers, and somewhere afternoon, all of this unfolded.
All this happened, and this witness, John, told us that this shooter, he says, had worked at this building for well over 10 years, believed to have been an Aurora resident. We'll start to piece together within an hour here information from Aurora, from the city of Aurora and police on who that shooter may be. But I think more importantly is how are our victims doing? How are the people who he opened fire on doing? And we want to get that information to you. We can tell you several hospitals in the area have treated victims. Chuck Gotti and the I-team reported 4 officers shot. City of Aurora tells us they are stable, but then Chuck and the I-team also reporting several casualties, and including at least 1 death if the coroner's there.
Want to let our viewers know that we have an entire team fanned out in the area. We have reporters stationed at the area hospitals, and we are trying to get the conditions of those injured. And as soon as we are able to confirm that information, we will pass that along to everybody.
In hopefully about 65 minutes. We were told about 5 p.m.
The press briefing.
Yeah, we'll get a press briefing from the city of Aurora, and I'm guessing some of the lead investigators who are there on the scene. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I think the fact that you have had, number 1, the suspect described as neutralized, and number 2, you haven't seen the suspect marched out of there in custody in handcuffs and put in a police car, nor have you seen that person put in an ambulance, would indicate the definition of neutralized that we talked about a little while ago, and that the coroner is responding to that scene for the shooter.
I mean, I think that he was hesitant, and Chuck, as you always do, asking the tough questions. What does that mean? And the city of Aurora hesitant at that moment as they talk to us live here on the air to go into detail about what neutralized means. The takeaway, though, they got this guy.
Well, you have to look at what is in front of us, and the fact that Alexis said she didn't see the ambulances move in to take away a wounded person. That would have been the shooter at that point, because we believe that the people who were wounded may have been taken away before our chopper got there. Very early on, somehow they managed to get out and get to safety, or at least get to a hospital. But just the timing of this, the use of the terminology, the fact that it's now over, and that the situation is deemed to be once again safe, all of those things together with the coroner telling us that they're responding responding to the scene, it certainly seemed to indicate that neutralized means that the suspect is on the floor of that plant.
All right, Chuck, and we just got an updated time for the press briefing from Aurora PD that it will be happening sooner than we had anticipated. It should be happening around 4:30 this afternoon. We will continue to stay on the air until we get that information to you. But I'm also watching the clock right now and seeing, because we have been talking about the students in the area from D129 who had to shelter in place on this soft lockdown for quite some time and missing their dismissal time. Right about now, they hopefully are heading home and reuniting with their family members who have been probably watching this afternoon, very concerned. So
you're thinking like a parent, Judy.
Yeah,
like both of us. And when this happened, we don't live very far from this suburb. You think about those kids who have to go home, tell their parents
what happened.
Yeah. Why was I in lockdown?
And then now probably trying to find out exactly what happened at this nearby manufacturing plant.
Yeah. District 129 has been terrific.
Yes.
Jeff Craig, the superintendent, was with us on the phone earlier. Their plan went into place immediately. Parents were notified via email and I think a robocall, but certainly email. And then he joined us here on the air to provide some details for you parents who probably just want your kids home right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luckily, we can report that no schools were involved in this. This was isolated to one particular industrial building, and that shooter was neutralized inside that building.
All right, we have been on the air now with this breaking news coverage since about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Right now, we are going to begin Eyewitness News at 4 p.m. So the latest situation on what is going on in Aurora. Again, we know that 4 Aurora City police officers have been injured in this shooting this afternoon that started well before 2.
Stable. Shooter, or if it is someone he shot, but we're going to try and get that updated information because they've moved up now, as you mentioned, Judy. The city and police are supposed to address the media here in about 30 minutes.
Right around 4:30. Let's go back down to Alexis McAdams, who is our first crew there on the scene, seeing what is happening at this 4 o'clock hour. Alexis?
Judy, still a very active scene, and you can see, I'm going to step out of the way and show you in this area. We're near the facility where this all unfolded. An active shooting situation at Henry Pratt Company in southwest suburban Aurora here in Kane County. Now, we are getting more information in at this time, but we can tell you just from being here for the past 5 to 10 minutes or so, the situation has definitely changed. A lot of police officers who were rushing in and now leaving, driving slowly out of this neighborhood here near Prairie in this area, because Pratt is in a neighborhood here in Aurora. People are trying to come in here and travel to get their kids picked up from school since that lockdown was lifted. And lots of neighbors here in the area just standing outside with their phones and shooting video and posting to Facebook, asking if their friends and family members or people who they know work at that facility are okay this afternoon. They did evacuate that building, and we're still waiting to hear on civilian injuries at this point. The Kane County coroner is on scene. We're waiting to find out more information from authorities, but we're talking a huge police presence here in Aurora for this active shooting situation this afternoon. Dozens of agencies, you can think of it here around Illinois. They have been here. They've sent all of their officers. We saw people on the way in speeding on the side of
Samaritan Hospital. That is another hospital in the area, but we have not been given condition updates on any of those patients, and we've also not been told whether they are police officers or whether they are employees who were involved in this shooting. I can tell you just about 5 to 10 minutes ago, when we initially pulled into the parking lot, we attempted to drive over to the emergency room area, which is in the distance behind me, and as soon as we rounded the bend, there was a huge police presence, probably half a dozen police cars and armed guards, armed police officers standing outside that emergency room, and you could see there was a real sense of urgency there. We attempted to stop and find out, what was going on, see if we could receive any sort of update about if there are in fact police officers who are being treated here, and we were shooed away by security nearly immediately. Obviously, this is a very tense and developing situation here. We have been told by the city spokesperson from Aurora that there were 4 Aurora police officers who were injured in this shooting. We again have not been given specifics of all of that, so we're hoping to receive some more information, perhaps from that news conference that is happening in about a half hour. We're told that we are going to be hearing from Aurora Police. So really the situation here is we know that there are 2 patients who are being treated. 3 were initially brought here, and there was a very large police presence at the emergency room behind me. Rob and Judy.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. Liz Nagy live by Mercy Hospital. Our investigative reporter Chuck Gowdy has been reporting on this with us since this story broke. Let's go back to Chuck in the newsroom and get an update on the situation. Chuck.
Judy, the I-team has identified the individual who was behind this today, who has been, quote, neutralized, unquote, by Aurora Police. The Kane County medical examiner headed to the scene now, perhaps because that shooter has been killed by police, although that has not been confirmed. We expect to hear details on that coming up from the police in less than a half an hour now. The man just went ballistic. Those are the words, or that is the word of a co-worker who told us early on during our coverage that he not only saw this individual show up for his 7 a.m. shift as an assembler at this longtime plant in Aurora, but that he then saw him just as he was going on his shooting rampage. He didn't know why he was spared, except that he may have just been too far away from the scene, although he said he was 15 or 20 yards at the point that the man was starting to shoot. Who he killed, or rather who he shot, other than the 4 Aurora police officers, we are not certain. We do know that it's multiple victims inside the plant taken to nearby hospitals, at least 3 of them. We believe that at least a couple of those people are not in good condition, but we have not been told that there are fatalities other than one that the coroner is now responding to at the scene. No one has been seen taken by ambulance recently. There have been no additional shots fired after the police so-called neutralized the shooter, and we are awaiting more word on exactly how this came to an end and, more importantly, what may have led to it.
We're going to go to Alexis in just a second, but Chuck, you said we've ID'd this. We know, we're not releasing his name, but we know who this guy was who did this shooting?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
we're working on his background now and trying to figure out exactly what his history was. We know that he worked in the plant for 15 years or so, and that he was in his mid-30s to early 40s or so.
Okay.
All right, Chuck, we'll let you to continue to work on that, and we're going to jump back down to this scene right now. Alexis McGadden standing by. Alexis.
Yeah, still developing situation here. Still lots of law enforcement here in Aurora as they try to figure out exactly what's going on with this active shooter incident. But the situation has been secured at this point. But we are talking with people in the neighborhood. Like you mentioned, Pratt is in the middle of a neighborhood here in Aurora. And after that lockdown was lifted on those local schools, people are now waiting to find out exactly where those students are, exactly how they can be transferred back over to their homes. And so you told me you have 2 siblings, correct, who go to a local school. How old are they?
They are 8 and 9.
What's the situation right now? You're trying to get them over here to your home?
Yeah, so they ride a bus and they are not able to get home, and they have no idea because their bus stop is right here on the corner of Prairie and Woodlawn. And it's like freaking all of us out because you have so many kids lost and you don't know where to get them.
When did you hear about this active shooter situation pretty much in your neighborhood?
It was about 1:30 when we heard about it. I was in drama class and we were stuck there until 3:32.
And you are a student as well. What school do you attend?
I go to Aurora High School, and I was thankfully to drive here and didn't have to wait for a bus. So
Well, you were on lockdown then as well, correct?
Yeah.
So what were they telling you in your classroom?
They didn't tell us anything. They just said that it was not a drill and that we couldn't leave. And then our teacher was able to inform us after we informed, like we said on social media and stuff like that and contacted our parents. But otherwise, we had no idea what was going on right away. At
this point, coming back to your neighborhood, not probably a lot of action usually going on here in the smaller neighborhood here in Aurora. What is the scene like right now?
It's crazy. There's so many people, and you wouldn't even think, like, there's cops from different cities that you wouldn't even think that would be here. It's scary.
We hope that your brother and sister are able to get home soon. We'll stay out here as well at the scene and keep you updated on that situation. We're still waiting to hear back from school officials as well. That lockdown was lifted at those local schools, and this active shooting situation seems to be more under control right now than we arrived about 10 minutes or so ago. Lots of law enforcement that were rushing into the scene now trying to get out of this area, which has been heavily clogged with law enforcement from all across the state. We're talking FBI agents, ATF agents, you name it. They're out here right now trying to get this situation under control. Back to you in the studio.
Okay, that scene has been secure for quite some time. Alexis McAdams talking to a student. You can let that student know. She talked about some kids maybe being lost or they're luckily all students, district saying accounted for. Lockdowns worked. Lockdowns were in place. Chopper 7 HD now showing live here, much closer look. It looks like they've taped off the parking lot, and so that looks to be an area. And there's those double doors. Okay, there's the doors that we saw SWAT officers and police going into, and you see there, Judy, there's a pretty big area. You wonder if one of those, wonder if one of those vehicles is this shooter's car. That would make sense that they wouldn't want anybody to get in there. But we're seeing now investigators going into that building with a less of a sense of urgency now that we know this shooter has been neutralized.
And we know that Chuck Gowdy and our I-team, they are now trying to piece together all of the information. As he said earlier, we now have the identity of the shooter, but we are trying to track down more information before we release all of that here on television. But we were able to at least, get a little bit insight into who this person is from John, who was one of the employees who was talking to us earlier on the phone. And he described this employee had started his workday as normal at 7 o'clock in the morning, along with John and his coworkers, but somewhere along that noontime might have made his way outside. So that's why we're wondering if we're seeing the taped off vehicles in that parking lot, if any of those vehicles had anything to do with the alleged shooter in this point, because at some point he clearly was able to come back with weapons.
With a handgun, yeah. John had reported seeing a handgun with some sort of green laser. Chuck had asked him a really important question about security at this building, if there were any armed security officers. There are not, and this witness, John, worked there for 40 years. You'd think 40 years that you wouldn't need security. We have sound from John Probst, the witness. Okay, let's listen. This was earlier. We talked to a witness who was inside and saw the shooter.
He said that this person was shooting, and he come running down. He was bleeding pretty bad, and next thing you know, he went walking back up front, and we heard more shots. And then I said, "Hey, well, we just left the building." That come running back to us, that he started opening up in the room, and he said he was shooting everybody. So he walked right, I'd say within 20 feet. I mean, going up the aisle, and then next thing you know, from one of the other guys come running back and said that he started opening fire.
Just incredible when we were listening to John describe the situation, that the gunman came about 20 feet in front of him, and he heard the shots fired. He and his coworkers ran out the back door, and as they were running, he also said that he continued to hear the gun firing.
They knew him.
Yeah.
It's like coming to work, and someone, he said he worked just feet from him. He was an assembler, and this was his coworker who he sees all of a sudden armed with a handgun. I just can't even imagine all those people who we have not talked to.
Yeah.
Those other coworkers who ran for their lives, and some didn't make it out. We're reporting that there are multiple casualties. We call them civilian casualties. Those 4 police officers who were shot, the city of Aurora telling us they are stable.
So a sense of relief.
Yes, their loved ones probably watching who know those police officers or have police officers who work at the Aurora Police Department. They're stable, but we're also told the Kane County coroner's on the scene of this active shooter situation that's now secured. So we know at least one person's dead. Chuck speculating that maybe it is the shooter who's described, you see on your screen, as neutralized. We hope that there are no civilian fatalities, but we'll probably hear that from police here in the coming, before the top of the hour, right at the top of the hour.
And I want to pass along some information we have in terms of the injured. All we know at this point is that we're able to confirm for you that 3 patients were initially rushed from the scene to Mercy Hospital there, and then one of them was transferred to Advocate Good Samaritan. Conditions on all of those unknown at this point, so we will continue to keep in touch with the officials at the various hospitals and pass along that information as soon as we have it.
The city of Aurora sent out a tweet at 3 p.m. It was an emergency update. The shooter has been apprehended, so we can tell you that was around when the city had officially said the shooter was apprehended. We later got more information that he was neutralized, and now first responders treating the injured. We have a couple reporters at various hospitals you were just talking about. We don't know the conditions of some of these victims. District 129 working now on getting parents their kids. And okay, so look at this. This is a large group of
so this is a live picture that you're looking at from Chopper 7 HD.
And they're going in. So, you know, when we first went on the air, Judy, this was a delicate situation.
Oh, yeah.
They were hiding behind armored units, slowly making their way to those doors. And now you see a lot of SWAT going in there, a lot of police. And look at those double doors. They're banged up. And that was where we watched a lot of this action unfold. Chuck, I think you're up in the newsroom. Are you there?
Well, Rob, this would certainly indicate that that area that has been cordoned off with the all-too familiar yellow police tape is important to what happened here. It could be as simple as the shooter's car being parked there, but it also may have started in that area. You know, it may have been some kind of a confrontation in the parking lot, and there may potentially have been a victim or some gunfire in that area that resulted then in the shooter going into the building. I mean, we saw that certainly in the Mercy Hospital case a few months ago in Chicago, where the gunman showed up to settle a score with his ex-fiancée in the parking lot and then moved it inside the hospital itself. So that kind of scenario is not unheard of, although we do believe that the majority of the gunshots and the greatest number of victims were inside the facility. This also hits, as you know, certain communities much harder than others when things like this happen. We can't forget that it was 1 year ago yesterday that the Parkland, Florida school shooting happened, a very difficult anniversary for a lot of people across the country. 17 people killed in that. It was a random attack. It was not someone who was a disgruntled employee. And then 11 years ago, it was the Northern Illinois University shooting, just you know, a couple dozen miles west of Aurora. In DeKalb, there were 5 students killed and 16 wounded, and that was the case of a young man who went into an assembly hall and opened fire. That also happened on February the 14th. Yeah. Certainly no indication of any connection. Sometimes there are anniversary connections to events like this. There's no indication that was the case here, but it certainly is a tender time for anybody who followed the news, followed those shootings, may have known somebody who was involved or touched by it at that time.
Yeah, it is pretty chilling to think that, yes, just yesterday we were reporting on those anniversaries. Chuck, stay with us here from the newsroom. Right now, we also can bring you a little bit of the police radio traffic as this was happening. This is, I believe, the initial calls for help.
Aurora's EMS fax to the 4th level for the active shooter incident at 641 Archery Avenue. The scene is not secure.
And this is when dozens of officers from various departments arrived, or rushed, I should say, to that scene, and then likely engaged in some sort of gunfight with this suspect, because those 4 officers reported injured or shot stable condition, according to the city of Aurora. But that was the moment when this was really happening, and they sent a lot of police there. So we noticed too, Judy, that there's a second area now that's been roped off there. It's the bottom right corner of your screen. It looks like police have wrapped that tape around one of those three or four cars. Right? Yeah, and so you wonder now, and we had talked to a witness. Chuck talked a little bit about this, that a witness told us this coworker came to work today just like any normal day.
In the morning. Yeah,
and so if he did have the handgun, as that witness told us, then he probably had to go out and get it. I don't, unless he brought it in. The chopper will go out here occasionally, so work with us here. They may pop us up on screen. There it goes. It comes back. So that signal will go out occasionally, because this is live from Chopper 7 HD. So you wonder if there's definitely some evidence out there in one of those cars.
And Rob, we can now confirm that there has been one fatality, as we have been speculating this afternoon on the Kane County coroner responding to the scene, that clearly there has been a fatality in this case. So now we can confirm that there is at least one fatality. Again, we don't know at this point if it is indeed the gunman that we have been talking about. We should know shortly. We have an official press briefing coming up, and we will be on standby. Oh, apparently that is happening at 5 p.m.
Yes, they just pushed out an alert, the city of Aurora. At first we heard maybe here at 4:30. Looks like that's going to happen, as we initially reported, at the top of the hour. 5 p.m. the city of Aurora plans to provide what it's calling an emergency update. The Aurora Police Department going to tell us how those fellow officers are doing, and also give us, you would think, some more details on who this madman, this lunatic who would do something like this is, and neutralized by police. What that means, if he is indeed dead. We're going to get those answers in about 40 minutes from the city of Aurora. Chopper 7 HD live over the scene here in southwest suburban Aurora. As we have watched this happen in the last few hours, it went from an active scene. When we sat down here and started watching, we were stunned.
With not a whole lot of information at that point, except that an active shooter was inside this massive complex. And even John, I know we keep going back to our interview with John, but he is the only employee from inside, the witness that we have been able to talk to this afternoon. But when we asked him how big this building was, I think his word was, it's simply massive.
Yeah, and it is, yeah.
So when we were sitting down on the anchor desk here, no idea what first responders were faced with as they were making entrance into that building.
And so you saw just a few minutes ago live here from Chopper 7 HD that a lot of officers and SWAT going in, and they will piece by piece, inch by inch, go around that building. And it clearly seems secure, because that's what they've told us, but they've got to process the evidence. They've got to look at if they have surveillance cameras in there. You would think a facility like this would. They've got to look and start to piece together what this employee did today after he started his day just like the rest of his coworkers, and ended it with this violence that has now left at least one person dead, according to the Kane County coroner.
Our reporter Alexis McAdams was on the ground there, and if you were just with us, she was interviewing a young woman who said that there might have been some issues with reunifying with family members from the local school districts. We can pass along that District 129 has been very upfront with the information with their family members. So hopefully that has all been okay and ran smoothly this afternoon, because all 18 schools for a while there were placed on a soft lockdown. But since that lockdown has been lifted, they have been reunifying, students with their dismissal, one school at a time. So hopefully that is all smooth this afternoon.
It's the age we live in. Every district in this Chicago area has a plan in place like the one that was implemented today for District 129. We had the superintendent on earlier giving us some critical details for parents who probably turned on the news or saw this on social media. I just can't imagine. I mean, immediately we were reaching out to our loved ones. We don't live far from here to check in. The district saying staff and kids are okay. Now they're just trying to, as you mentioned, they've got to get them out and get them home. I can imagine there'll be a lot of parents happy to have their kids home tonight.
So again, the latest situation here from Aurora, you see there at the bottom of your screen. We can confirm at this point at least one fatality in this shooting. It started as an active shooter situation. We got the call to get on air for you right around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Probably about an hour and a half after that, we finally got word from authorities that the suspect, the shooter in this case, has been neutralized. And after that, they have been methodically going into this building to make sure that everything is secure, that they have accounted for all of the injured. Right now, we know that several people have been transported to nearby hospitals. Their conditions are unknown at this point. We also know that that includes four police officers from Aurora. We know that we have been told by the city that the officers are in good condition, stable condition, I should say, this afternoon.
The I-team has had a lot of information for us, and we sometimes withhold that until we get specific details, but they initially had heard several officers were shot, and that's when we scrambled into action to get on the air and get the chopper up to figure out what the heck's happened. We've now got more answers, and we're expecting more at 5 p.m. from the city of Aurora. Lawmakers have weighed in. The president, according to the press secretary, Sarah Sanders, briefed on this some time ago before he left for Florida. Governor Pritzker also sharing on social media he was monitoring the shooting in Aurora, encouraged residents to follow directives of local law enforcement, and the city of Aurora, working with police in the district, did a terrific job in handling this.
Let's go back down to Alexis McAdams, our reporter that is standing by on the scene there, seeing what is unfolding at this hour. Alexis?
Still lots of law enforcement here and people coming outside and trying to figure out exactly what happened in their neighborhood, and that includes Margie here. So you said this afternoon you saw a large police presence. Walk me through what's happening right now in your neighborhood.
Well, right now there's a lot of squad cars, a lot of SWATs. I've never seen this before. Earlier when it first started, me and my husband were coming back from the store, and I saw the first squad car pull up, and then there was just like hundreds just going right through my street. And I told my husband, I said, we have to go on lockdown, and then I saw a breaking news come in saying that there was a active shooter, so we went on lockdown ourselves and locked all the doors.
Did you see any people, any employees leaving from the Henry Pratt Company here in the southwest suburban Aurora area?
No, because I live on the other side of the building, but I did see police officers running, down the sidewalk. So that's when I said we need to stay in until they catch him.
When you did come outside, did the police tell you to get out of the area, go back inside?
No, because I waited until he was caught. I waited until they caught him, and then that's when we came out.
So you're sitting inside your house waiting for an active shooter to be caught in your neighborhood?
Correct, yes, and that's really scary. That's nothing like this has ever happened in this neighborhood, ever. So it's scary. It really is.
And we're still waiting to find out more information as well. Looks like, though, some of your neighbors who did have kids at the local schools, once that lockdown was lifted, those kids are now home safely?
Right. We just saw a bus come in, so yeah, they're starting to let the kids out of school, so yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here live. And yeah, we're just trying to find out more information as well, just like Margie, is exactly what has unfolded here, exactly how many injuries there are. And as soon as we get that information, we'll bring it right back to you.
Yeah, Alexis, that is really great to hear from Margie. But I'm curious, since we have you, Alexis, describe to us a little bit of that scene right there, because we were hearing from John, who was an employee inside the building, that this plant sits right there amongst homes and residences.
That's right. This huge manufacturing area is right in the middle of a neighborhood here in Aurora. So people all around here coming out of their homes and seeing this whole situation unfold. And from what employees who we did speak with earlier told us, they said at least 30 people were inside of that manufacturing facility. We're still waiting to find out exact number on that, because it's a very large facility here. Lots of people in the area do work there. They can walk to work. And at this point, it does look like the coroner has arrived. A few vans have pulled in, and now most of the police presence is moving back out of the area.
Yeah, one of the witnesses we talked to in that building, Alexis, ran out and went to the house of a stranger who welcomed him into his home. He ran out the back of that building, so you can see some homes up there. It looks like he probably fled out of there and was standing outside without his coat. And we talked to a gentleman named Gabriel who said, come in here, get warm with your coworker, and they shared their story.
Liz Nagy live at Mercy Hospital for us, where they received a few patients here this afternoon. Liz, any update from where you are?
Okay.
Judy, we've not received much of an update. We did speak with somebody from the hospital just a few minutes ago who came out to let us know that, in fact, there is going to be a news conference happening over at the police department at 5 o'clock. We have asked for more information from the media department here. However, the media person told us that the hospital itself is on lockdown. When we first arrived here about a half hour ago, we pulled into the parking lot and drove up to the emergency area, and we were immediately shooed away. There was a very large police presence, at least half a dozen police cars out there, and police officers standing outside, some of them armed, standing immediately outside the emergency room doors. So it was very clear that this was the middle of a hectic situation. We have been told that they were initially treating 3 patients here from the Henry Pratt shooting. 3 people were brought here. Another one was transferred to a hospital in Downers Grove. And we have also been told that there were 4 Aurora police officers who were shot. We've not been told specifically if those police officers are being treated here. However, the police presence here at the hospital would indicate that at least one of those officers is here. So we are here in the media area waiting, hoping to get any more information from the hospital. But they are, of course, busy treating those patients and then trying to make sure that the area is secure as well.
All right, Liz, thank you. I want to remind everybody that Liz is standing by at present Aurora this afternoon.
Hey, Liz, before we let you go, and I know you're waiting to hear more from
All right, everybody. Welcome to Disclosure TV. You are seeing a live view of ABC 7, which is being broadcasted out of California and Chicago. You are watching a mass shooting at a factory in Aurora, Illinois, otherwise known as Kane County. That's Kane. An employee around 1 o'clock walked into his place of employment, which is Henry Pratt Company, and walked in with a handgun and started shooting. It was said that he had a handgun with a green laser attached to it, and just started shooting. As of right now, a witness who was inside, who ran out, has already talked to ABC 7, told ABC 7 that he knew who the employee was and why he may be shooting. The suspect's name still hasn't been released. And as far as we know now, 4 police officers have been shot. Several employees have been shot. The FBI and the ATF are on scene out of Chicago. They are taking over the investigation. The schools were locked down for some time, for several hours. The schools were locked down. The suspect has been neutralized, another word for shot. He has been killed by police. The so-called reason he did go on a shooting spree at his place of employment was that it was rumored that he may be getting fired or terminated from his job. I'm assuming he didn't like that too much, and so he started shooting everybody at his place of employment. I don't think he was fired as of yet. That's what one of the employees of the factory said, that he had not been fired yet, but there were rumors that he was going to be terminated. And that may be the reason for the shooting. And as far as I know, no one has died from their injuries. Well, it says here at least one dead, and I think that is the shooter. As far as we know, the other officers, 4 officers that came into, that was the first on the scene, were shot and were taken to the hospital. And not long after the news broke out, ABC 7 did have an employee on the phone giving them information as to what was going on inside. There is a coroner on scene, as you can see there. This is in Aurora, Illinois, also known as Kane County. At 5 p.m., which is going to be Chicago's an hour behind, so it would be 6 p.m. my time. In about 30 minutes, Kane County Coroner is going to have a press conference on. They are going to have a press briefing at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock our time. I live in Kentucky, so it's 6 o'clock my time. They are withholding the name of the shooter. I'm guessing there's a news embargo on that, and they will announce his name at the briefing. And if no one knows what a news embargo is, I'm very, very upset with what news embargoes are. I recently found out what they are. A news embargo lets the source of the information decide on whether who can release it, when it's released, how it's released, and who it's released to, and if it can ever be released. So right now, I'm sure his name and that information is under a news embargo, and they actually can't say it. So let's go back to the live feed and listen in on what they're saying.
We'll bring this to you live when it does happen. Live in Aurora, Sarah Schulte, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Yeah,
Judy, Rob, back to you.
Okay, nice to hear from the Fraternal Order of Police, the men and women who are part of that organization, reacting to those first responders who, as our security expert said earlier, the people trying to get out of that building, yes, they're going in. And that's what happened today. And it sounds like there was gunfire exchange with this person and those 4 officers stable.
And that they have to keep those both mindsets in place as they're going into that building. One, they're continuing the investigation, making sure that they get all of the evidence required. But on the other hand, they're also keeping thoughts and prayers for their colleagues.
So Sarah will remain there as we await that news conference at the top of the hour and get some more answers on what happened to the shooter, who police are saying was neutralized. Get a better description on how those officers are doing, and there's some different numbers out there on how many people, how many civilians or workers may have been injured or shot, but you see there at least one person dead at the scene. We just don't know who that is.
And you can see from that live picture, again, we're going back to this is a live picture looking at this facility. If you have not been following the entire coverage, this is the Henry Pratt Company. It has been there in existence for over 100 years, a huge, massive complex, but we were able to gather from one of the witnesses who was inside the building at the time that the shooting happened. Only about 30 employees were inside at that time when the shooter walked in. That's the information that we were able to gather from the witness. And right now we're back live.
Yeah, look at that.
There's still movement.
Well, we watched all of them earlier. It looks like SWAT and other police. Look at them all. Look at them all. They all went in.
So they're exiting from that door.
Yeah, were these the ones who went in a couple hours ago, now coming out? But these are the men and women coming out. Look like they're dressed in their protective gear, SWAT gear, coming out of the building now. And
It was a massive response, which right now you can see the teams of first responders and investigators coming out.
Look at them all,
You can imagine when this was happening, how many vehicles were on the scene.
And so now that, and this walk shows you how big this building is as they've walked across the parking lot and now look to be going into another part of this building. It's huge.
Yeah.
Look they're still coming out. Yeah, these are the brave men and women that make you proud. You know, they're the ones who were in there.
Yeah, and this is the time in the afternoon where we can pass along some information that have been confirmed, but right now we are waiting to hear more details, as Sarah Schulte mentioned, waiting with the Aurora Police Department with their press briefing coming up shortly, waiting on the numbers, waiting on the update of the injured and exactly what is going on with their investigation at this point.
Yep. We're going to go to Alexis McAdams in a little bit. She's been there on the scene talking to parents and students who were affected by this. District 129, was put on lockdown, a soft lockdown for some buildings and then just a lockdown for others as the district put its plan in place to make sure that these students and teachers and staff were okay. And we'll talk to her in a little bit because she was the first reporter on the ground for us there, and we've got a few reporters at area hospitals. Sarah Schulte is at the police department. We expect to go to her, go to that news conference in about 24 minutes if it starts on time.
Our Chuck Audi is in the newsroom with us and has been on the story since the story first broke and the calls first came in, and he and his team are continuing to confirm some of the details on this alleged shooter. Again, we have the name of the suspect, and our entire team is right now trying to work on confirming all of that information and the details on just exactly who this person is.
We're gonna have a lot more for you in the next few hours as our newsroom continues to work on this. Alexis McAdams on the ground talking to some parents and students. Let's check back in with her. Alexis.
Yeah, Rob, still a developing situation here in Aurora. Lots of law enforcement here blocking off this area here where the active shooting situation happened at Henry Pratt Company here in this area in Aurora. And we've been talking to people who live in this neighborhood because this situation went down at a manufacturing area, but in the middle of a neighborhood. Maria, you live very close by. What did you hear this afternoon when the active shooting situation was underway?
Well, I heard a car going really fast, and then suddenly I heard the gunshots, like just a few minutes from the car going fast, I heard the shots. And from there, I just, like probably 3 to 5 minutes, I saw the cops going in faster and faster. So it just, but the gunshots were like really loud and persistent.
How many gunshots did you hear?
I couldn't say. Because
there were many, like you think more than a dozen?
Probably, because it sounded like a machine gun, you can say. Yeah.
And like we mentioned, this happened in the middle of your neighborhood. Do you know anybody who lives near you who works at Pratt?
No. I seen, when they come out because I live right just in front, but...
What did that look like? People coming out, were they running out?
I just saw from the factory, from the front of my house, I saw them, just looking outside and looking around, and that's when I looked around too, and I heard more gunshots and I went inside.
And like you mentioned, cops getting out of this area now, Aurora Police, hearing Aurora police officers injured. I mean, seeing this large police presence and how they protect your community, what would you want to tell the Aurora Police Department?
Thank you. They did a great job, and sorry if they lost somebody or, their family members. It's,
Were you nervous to come outside? I mean, you mentioned you have kids who were trying to get back home from school. I mean, were you nervous to come out here?
Yes, I was. I was. I asked the cop if I could go and pick up my kids, and he said yes, just go ahead. And
great feeling.
Well, good. Well, thank you for talking to us. And I know it's really shaking you up as well. This is your neighborhood, your community, your police department as well. And so,
never think about it.
No, you don't think this is going to happen in your own area. And still waiting to get more information from Aurora Police. We will be briefed by them very shortly. 4 officers with the Aurora Police Department we know are in stable condition. Still waiting to find out from the police department exactly how many injuries there are at this time. We'll send it back to you.
Alexis, thank you. A true sense of appreciation from a parent right there.
Sure.
Wanted to simply pick up per child from school. Speaking of the kids in the school, I do have an update from District 129. Again, this is a district that serves 18 schools in that area, serving Aurora, North Aurora, Montgomery, Sugar Grove, and Batavia. So they are now tweeting that many after-school activities have now been canceled, and all of the kids have been sent home. This affected 18 schools in that area when this lockdown was happening. It was a soft lockdown, which meant that their education continued, but there was very little movement within the schools. And this affected 13,000 students and 1,700 employees. A lot of people affected this afternoon. And at that moment, not knowing what was going on, only knowing that they were going to stay in school a little while longer until they got the all clear. And finally, when they did get the all clear, is when the dismissals proceeded.
Glad we got some answers. We had talked to a homeowner earlier who said he did not hear the gunshots. That was the first woman we've heard from who wasn't in the building who heard those gunshots. And Chuck, you heard her describe them as rapid fire. Well, we don't know, or maybe you do. We're checking back in with you what kind of weapon. Well, we think it was a pistol, but that's the first person we've heard say, I heard these shots outside the building.
Well, it was a pistol, according to the witness who was inside and actually saw the gun, said he knows guns, couldn't identify the make and model, but said it was a pistol. And if you are going to put a laser sight on a pistol, you are probably adept enough to fire it quickly. So there's no doubt that somebody who heard rapid fire could have been describing pistol fire.
And that's what the witness said, that there was some sort of laser on the pistol?
Right. Yeah, the witness talked about a laser that you see them in TV shows. I mean, not many people, even people who have legitimate concealed carry permits, would walk around with lasers on their guns. But the laser is used basically to size up a target, identify where you want the bullet to end up, and the laser is used to target individuals, or in all likelihood, that's what this guy was using it for out here. It's not so much the type of gun that he had, I think, that's important to the investigation at this point, but how he came equipped to execute this today. Did he have extra ammo? Were there extended clips? Did he have the gun legally? When did he get the gun? How did he get it into the building? I know you were talking earlier about whether he went to the car perhaps and got it and brought it back in, but they're not going through metal detectors to show up at this place of business, so there's nothing to say that he couldn't have carried it in when he showed up for his 7 a.m. shift. He didn't necessarily have to go to his car to get it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Chuck Gowdy been gathering a lot of details for us with the I-Team, and we appreciate it, Chuck. Stay with us.
In some ways, really fortunate for all of those employees that there were homes nearby, that as they were evacuating, as they were running out, as the gunman was coming in, that they were able to take shelter and go inside some of the homes. And right now we can listen to one of the interviews that we had earlier with Gabriel, who lives nearby, was working from home when all of this was happening.
So I was working from home, and I happened to notice just outside the front there was a police officer with a riot shield, and his lights were on in the vehicle, so I saw the lights first. And then I took a peek outside, and I noticed that John and his friend, his two coworkers here, that they were outside and both had no coats. And the police officer had instructed them to stay where they were, but it's like 16 degrees outside, so I let them in. I figured they were safe since the police officer was kind of guarding them to begin with. I've been here all day. I didn't hear anything out of the ordinary, but when John then came in, they right away said, like, you didn't hear any gunshots or anything, and I let them know, like, no, I didn't hear anything.
That was homeowner Gabriel, who lived behind the building. We had a lengthy conversation with him, and you heard him mention John. John is the witness who talked to Judy and me and Chuck Gowdy about being inside that building. He has worked there for more than 40 years. He knows the shooter. He said the shooter came to work today just like John did.
7 o'clock in the morning, showed up with his shift and with his co-workers. In fact, they worked throughout the morning.
Yeah, I mean, they had to have, right? Because this didn't happen until the afternoon. And then John told us
an incredible account.
It is. And then John calmly told us about what he saw inside. He saw a coworker coming at him, bleeding, shot, and he got out of there. And then he went outside, and Gabriel said, "Come in here, you guys, get warm."
And that the shooter came within 20 feet of him. John saw him, turned around, ran to the back door with his coworkers, hearing the gunshots continue behind him. So as you can imagine, that's the time when the 911 calls were coming in, and these presumably Aurora police officers who have now been injured were rushing in to respond to that.
A lot is going to happen here in the next 30, 45 minutes because the Aurora Police Department is going to hold a news conference. There's a live look right now. We have a crew there, Sarah Schulte.
Okay, so right now, I actually want to play for you all a video of the 911 call for the Aurora Police Department. I do have that. I don't think many people do, but you know what? I do have it. I actually do have the 911 call, so I'm going to give it to you. And I want to play it for you right now.
District 5 units. Reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5 shot, multiple DOAs. 5 shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse. Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units in route. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse. Go ahead.
So what you just heard there, what you are hearing there, is the 911 dispatch for the first 4 police officers on scene. And I don't have anything else on the 911 tape except for that. I don't think anybody else has that. I'm lucky I have it. And yes, you heard it first right here. That is the 911 tape for Aurora shooting. And I'll play it for you again.
District 5 units. Reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5 shot, multiple DOAs. 5 shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse. Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units en route.
Chicago 5K1 spoke.
5K91, go ahead.
Chicago 5K1 spoke. Patrol is Hebert Morris to the 2. Show me en route to Aurora.
5K91, 10-4.
516, can you send that information out to where I was?
516, 10-4.
Cheryl 576, I'm en route code 2 from New Orleans area.
576, 10-4.
Chicago 579, I'll be en route code 2 for Manhattan.
And you are listening to the 911 call for Aurora, Illinois. That is what came over the dispatch. They are saying there are multiple DOAs. If anybody knows what DOAs are, that means dead on arrival. And I'm assuming that the people in the factory was telling them that they were dead. So the cops hadn't showed up yet, but that is the 911 call. I also have another video. I'm going to show it to you in just 1 second. And it's showing the police arriving. As it's the police arriving on scene as the situation unfolds. So I'm going to show you this. If anybody is watching and listening, I'm going to show you this video. It is when the police department starts showing up for the shooting. All right, everybody. That is the video of the first responders to Aurora, Illinois, the mass shooting in Aurora, Illinois. I've also played the 911 tapes. That's all I have. I'm the only one that has it. Not even the press or the media have this. I'm the only one that has it, and that's kind of interesting. And you're seeing it right now. And I'll go ahead and replay that for you. Here's the 911 tapes for Aurora, Illinois, the mass shooting.
District 5 units. Reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5-shot, multiple DOAs, 5-shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse, Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units en route.
Chicago 591 Dispo.
591, go ahead.
Chicago 591 Dispo. Patrol is David Morris to the 2, show me en route to Aurora.
591, 10-4.
516, can you send that information out to where I was?
516, 10-4.
Cheryl 576, I'm in route code 2 from New Orleans area.
576, 10-4.
Chicago 579, I'll be in route code 2 for Manhattan.
All right, like I said, that is the 911 dispatch call for the initial dispatch for the Aurora, Illinois mass shooting. I'm going to show you the next video, which is the video showing the first initial response to the mass shooting at Henry Pratt Company. So I'm going to go back into the live feed, and I'm going to try to find you all some more information on this, and I'll let y'all watch the live feed.
And now we're to the I-team reporting that this shooter is dead in that building. Those Aurora police officers stable today.
All of this happening inside this building that you're looking at as we continue to see this live picture from Chopper 7 HD, a massive manufacturing complex in Aurora. About 30 employees working at this time when the shooting happened. And that door that you see right there with the crime scene tape up, that was the door that we were watching this afternoon as SWAT teams and authorities and first responders so carefully made their way in. And now you see it is all taped up and cordoned off, and still a large presence of investigators on the scene right now.
And we'll show you some of that video as this evening progresses, so you can see how we watch those first responders cautiously approach that building, and then it sounds like take out this shooter. We've got our team of reporters out in the southwest suburbs, a few at local hospitals. Our Sarah Schulte is at the Aurora Police Department. That news conference that was expected to start at 5 p.m. Now being pushed back to 5:30. We're told because the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, is going to join law enforcement to give us some details tonight.
As we await that press conference, and we will bring that information to you as soon as we have it. Again, this afternoon, we're approaching 5 o'clock now. We have been on the air since 2, and the shooting happened shortly before that. An active shooter situation inside this massive complex in Aurora. 4 police officers injured from Aurora and multiple civilian casualties.
We've been following this now for a few hours. We're going to check back in with Chuck Gowdy, and then our own Alan Kraszewski and Stacy Baca will come in, continue our coverage for you. We appreciate you joining us as we watch this unfold with you. Told the shooter is dead in that building. 4 officers injured in stable condition. We don't know the exact number, but other civilians or workers in that building were injured.
It has been a very emotional afternoon for a lot of folks. All right, we're going to toss it back to Chuck Gowdy in the newsroom with more information.
Judy, Rob, the man just went ballistic. That is the word being used by a witness who saw much of it play out at this West Suburban plant, a workplace shooting leaving 1 dead and 4 police officers hurt, along with at least 6 others wounded and in hospitals. We believe those people to be employees of this manufacturing facility as well. It all came down several hours ago, just after the lunch hour. They were getting back to work on the assembly line here, a valve company, been in business for more than 100 years. Today, according to a witness, one assembly line worker showed up with a pistol and he opened fire hours after his 7 a.m. shift started, but once the firing started, it didn't stop until several people were wounded. According to the information we're being told now, the Kane County coroner, Rob Russell, is on the scene tending to 1 dead. Multiple sources saying that that dead person is indeed the shooter, engaged by police, who stormed the building after about close to an hour of trying to figure out exactly how to bring this to an end. The initial 4 officers who were shot may have been the first inside, according to the way the timeline appears. But the SWAT teams that backed him up hid behind that FedEx truck, at least the engine block of it, until they felt safe to go in through a doorway just at the end of that yellow crime scene tape. That's the parking lot right there. The crime scene tape may be cordoning off the shooter's car, or it's possible that some of the gunplay may have actually begun in the parking lot. And that's what we're looking at this hour, just after 5 o'clock, as we continue coverage of the Aurora workplace shooting.
All right, Chuck, thank you so much for that. I want to thank our Rob Elgas and Stacy Baca, who've been on the air, of course, for 3 hours, nearly 3 hours at this point in time, from the shooting incident out in West Suburban Aurora. If you are just joining us, we want to bring up to speed here the shooting that happened inside that Aurora manufacturing facility. It actually happened just before 2 o'clock this afternoon, and I know we've been talking about the numbers here, but let's run this down for you. We have 4 Aurora police officers. They have been hurt, injured in some fashion. We know that they're in stable condition.
Yes, there are members of the Aurora FOP, Lodge 11, the FOP confirming that, again, 4 officers. Authorities also say the gunman has been, in their word, neutralized. You are looking right now, too, at a live picture here from the Aurora Police Department. We hope to have the news conference shortly. It's expected to unfold at 5:30. We're going to bring that to you live. Of course, the shooting happened earlier this afternoon at the Henry Pratt Manufacturing Company. This is right near Kensington and Higgins in Aurora. We do have team coverage on this breaking news stories as well. We're going to go ahead and begin with Alexis McAdams, who is at the scene. Alexis?
Good afternoon. Still developing situation here as we try to figure out exactly how many people have been injured in this workplace shooting here in Aurora at Henry Pratt Company. Stepping out of the way, you can see it's still an active investigation. Just moments ago, there were a lot more police, a very heavy police presence, but many of those officers have moved out, and now the Kane County coroner has moved in as we wait for more information about exactly how many people were injured at this incident. And now we did speak with people in the area who told us they heard at least a dozen gunshots earlier this afternoon when shots were fired here at Pratt. And this is to set it up for you. As you can see in this video, it's very active there, but this is in the middle of a neighborhood. So people that we talked to were walking out of their homes, waiting for their kids to get dropped off at their bus stop, and this is the situation that was unfolding all around them. It's a huge manufacturing facility that's been here for decades. A lot of the people who live in this neighborhood say they know family and friends who do work at this facility. They're waiting to hear back from them, hoping they're okay, checking if they've checked in at all on social media and trying to find exactly what happened here in this workplace shooting. And this is one of the people who said that they heard those gunshots earlier this afternoon.
I was getting ready to leave my work, and then I just heard a lot of police and then ambulance, firefighters and everything, and I just looked out and seen cars flying by, and until I came outside, I just seen like a lot of things going on, and kind of went on my phone, and then I seen that there was an active shooting.
The community is still waiting for answers right now and closure as they try to figure out if any of their family, friends, neighbors, somebody that they knew could have been inside and injured or affected by this workplace shooting. One thing we have heard from everybody who lives in this neighborhood here in Aurora is that they're thankful for that heavy police presence. We saw dozens of officers from multiple agencies all across the state, federal agencies, FBI, ATF agents. If anybody had extra people or if they had to pull people off of a detail, they were out here to offer support and help to the Aurora Police Department. Still waiting to find out from the Aurora PD exactly the injuries and the extent of the injuries to the civilians and those officers. For now, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Alexis, thanks so much. We appreciate that. Got to tell you from personal viewpoint, as I was coming into work earlier, around the time that this was taking place, there was a stream, at least a dozen different police departments and state police officers all heading outbound, of course, on I-88 out to this scene there in Aurora to assist the Aurora Police Department in handling all of this. I want to run down the injured here and what we're talking about. We know, as we've been told, 4 police officers have been injured. They are in stable condition.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Disclosure TV. Right now we have live coverage of the Aurora, Illinois mass shooting. It was a factory in Kane County, Illinois. And 4 police officers were injured. Right now I'm going to play you all a couple videos of the actual shooting taking place, and I also had the 911 calls. I'll play those, and I'll play all the videos that I have. Right now, I am the only one in besides the news media. The news media doesn't even have any of this. Right now, as of right now, I have been doing research, and I've been investigating, and I've been behind the scenes trying to pull things together for people. So, like I said, right now, I am getting ready to play several videos. The videos are going to be of the shooting. I have a video of the shooting taking place. Before you watch the video, a woman recorded this outside her window her window was on the back side of the plant where they were at. So I'm going to play this for you all, and I'm going to try to get back to the news conference when I can, but these are, like I said, these are videos this is something that's just popped up here recently in the last, since I came on air 5 minutes ago. So, like I said, I want to show you all this video. Yes, it's not from inside, it's from outside, and you can actually see the gunshots taking place. I also have the 911 calls. Zone 5 of Illinois, Aurora, Illinois, or Kane County Dispatch. I'm going to play that for you all first, and then I'll go from there. Like I said, the media doesn't have this. The mainstream media doesn't have any of this. I'm getting this in as it progresses. So right now I want to play for you all the response. I'll show you all a video of the police responding, and take a look at that. All right, so next I'm going to play for you the 911 call to the dispatcher that was placed to the dispatcher in Aurora, Illinois, or Kane County. This is the 911 call.
District 5 units, reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5 shot, multiple DOAs. 5 shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse. Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units en route.
Chicago 5K1 Dispo.
5K91, go ahead.
Chicago 5K1 Dispo. Patrol is Rick Morris to the 2. Show me en route to Aurora.
5K91, 10-4.
516, can you send that information out to where I was?
516, 10-4.
Cheryl 576, I'm in route code 2 from New Orleans area.
576, 10-4.
Chicago 579, I'll be en route code 2 for Manhattan.
All right, that was the 911 call for the Aurora Dispatch. The initial call came in. Next, I'm going to play the shooting. I want to show you all the back side of the building. And this is of the actual shooter shooting in the building. So if you all have kids looking at this, I would say look away, because this is a video of people being shot. You can't see it, but you can see the flashes. You can see the flashes from the gun. And if you all don't want to watch it, look away. But like I said, I'm getting ready to play a video of the shooter as he's going around the building shooting. I am the only one who has this video. So here it is. Here's the video.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to try to fix that to where y'all can see it a little better.
Oh my God.
I don't know where that video went, but I'll find it again.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I'll have to I'll have to redo this. So give me 1 second and I'll fix it.
Oh my God.
I'm going to slow it down just a little because it goes by pretty fast. So I'm going to slow it down just a little. You can see the flashes of light that's going off. That is the guy who, the suspect that is inside the building shooting.
Oh my God.
Let me see if that fixed it. Yeah, there we go.
Oh my God.
So as you can see the shooter in the building shooting.
Oh my God.
And the people that lived behind the factory were the ones that recorded that. So I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna try to find some more content. I'm gonna try to find some more video to shed light on some of this, and I'm gonna get back to the video, and you all can watch it live.
Take a note of that, and you mentioned, the tape in different areas of that parking lot outside. Presumably, those are areas that, as they look at this from a forensic standpoint, they'll be seeking to find evidence there. We don't know the significance of that tape right now, other than they've cordoned it off, and these are areas, of course, they'll be focusing on at some point.
It is interesting that there are
So it's Disclosure TV. Right now you are watching a live video feed of the Aurora, Illinois mass shooting. I'm going to interrupt it right there for a second. I want to show some video that I have received of the actual shooting, the 911 call, and the first responder response. So let's go ahead and start with the actual 911 call.
District 5 units. Reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5-shot, multiple DOAs, 5-shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse, Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units en route.
Chicago 591 Dispo.
5K91, go ahead.
Chicago 5K91 Dispo. Patrol is David Morris to the 2, show me en route to Aurora.
5K91, 10-4.
516, can you send that information out for I-1?
516, 10-4.
Cheryl 576, I'm in route code 2 from New Orleans area.
576, 10-4.
Chicago 579, I'll be en route code 2 for Manhattan.
District 5 units.
All right, that 911 call went on a little longer. So I'm gonna the next video I'm gonna show you is of the initial police response to the video to the 911 call. This is the initial police response as they were headed to the Henry Pratt Company to respond to a mass shooting. So there is the video of the first response to the mass shooting. As you see, we're going to come on live right now. We're going to go back to it looks like they're getting ready to do the police department's going to do a press briefing. I'll get back to the shooting video in just a minute.
Sheriff's Office, Fire Chief Gary Montez from the Aurora Fire Department, and a myriad of other people you see wrapped around. I'm going to turn the podium over immediately to Chief Kristen Zeman. She's going to offer a few remarks. So here's Chief Zeman.
Thank you very much. My name is Chief Kristen Zeman. I'm the Chief of the Aurora, Illinois Police Department. At approximately 1:24 today, the Aurora Police Department received multiple calls for an active shooter at 641 Archer Avenue, a manufacturing warehouse. At 1:28, officers arrived and were fired upon immediately. 2 of the initial 4 officers entering the building were shot. Additional officers began to arrive and were also fired upon. A total of 5 officers were struck by gunfire. The other officers on the scene located gunshot victims inside the building. At this time, we have confirmed that 5 victims are deceased. The Aurora Fire Department arrived on scene to stage with medics. A regional law enforcement response was coordinated to include Rescue Task Force, and several teams of officers went inside to locate and engage the offender. The building is 29,000 square feet, and when they located the offender, they engaged in gunfire with him, ultimately killing him. The shooter is identified as Gary Martin. He is a 45-year-old man, and we believe he was an employee of the company. At this time, we aren't sure of the motive of this act of violence. We do not have the identities of the deceased, but we would like family members to know that unification for the victims and witnesses that were in the building will be at Aurora University Public Safety Building located at 1408 South Lawn. All 5 police officers were transported to local hospitals, and from there, 2 were airlifted to Chicago area trauma centers. A 6th officer is being treated for a knee injury. I want to take this opportunity to send positive energy to those officers who are being treated and to the officers and medics who showed up from all over the state to render aid. This message is for them. Thank you for your selfless act. Thank you for running towards gunfire and putting your lives in danger to protect those inside the business. My heart goes out to the victims and their families who simply went to work today like any other day. We offer our sincere condolences, and as the facts of this tragedy unfold, we will provide information and attempt to make sense of it. I'd like to introduce now our mayor, Richard C. Irvin, to say a few words.
I don't think I can be clear in stating that today is a sad day in the city of Aurora. For so many years, we have seen similar situations throughout our nation, and the horrible feeling that we get when we see it on the news. To experience it firsthand is even more painful. It's a shame that mass shootings such as this have become commonplace in our country. It's a shame that a cold and heartless offender would be so selfish as to think he has the right to take an innocent life. But we as society cannot allow these horrific acts to become commonplace. We as a society cannot allow the selfless and heartless acts of this terrible tragedy to be relegated to spots on the 10 o'clock news. We must never forget those innocent people who were senselessly gunned down. The mothers and fathers, sons and daughters. We must never forget those police officers that rose to the call of duty and put themselves in harm's way to protect the innocent, who are also mothers and fathers, sons and daughters. Our hearts go out to the victims in this horrific tragedy. Our prayers to their families during what I'm sure will be a long and painful healing process. But we will heal. We will come together as one community and stand by those in pain from today's great loss. We will stand together with those officers shot in the line of duty. We will come together and heal as one Aurora. Let me commend our heroic first responders, the Aurora Police Department, the Aurora Fire Department, our 911 operators, Kane County Sheriff's Office, and all the FBI, and all the responding public safety teams throughout mutual aid, and who have come from near and far to assist today. They all put their lives on the line to secure the health and safety of others. We sincerely thank you. Thank you to every person who was directly involved in this incident. Your patience and professionalism during this entire process was commendable and allowed the responding officers to get the job done. We are here for you all as well. Thank you to the entire Aurora community for helping us to get the word out and provide accurate information throughout the community. Your support was invaluable and will continue to be from this point forward. Thank you to the people from throughout the nation who have offered assistance as well. We need your support and we need your prayers more than ever. On behalf of the entire city of Aurora, remember, we are one community and we will be stronger than ever past this. At this time, I will introduce our governor, J.B. Pritzker.
I
want to begin by acknowledging the amazing work of the Aurora Police Department and Chief Zeman and all of the men and women who were first responders and every single law enforcement officer involved in securing this scene. You rushed toward danger, and in doing that, you saved countless lives. And you represent the very best of what it means to protect our communities and to serve our communities. You have our deepest gratitude, and all the resources of the state that you need are at your disposal to continue your work into the evening and in the days ahead. I want to say a special thank you to the FBI, the ATF, Illinois State Police for offering backup, for being here to help the city of Aurora and the police department. There is no way to prepare for the pain of losing innocent people in the state that you were elected to lead, the state that you're elected to protect. There is no way to prepare. There are no words for the kind of evil that robs our neighbors of their hopes, their dreams, and their futures. There are no words to express our gratitude to the families of the officers who were injured in the line of duty as they responded within moments to the gravest kind of danger that they can face. Tomorrow, the families of the victims will be less than whole. They join a group that should not exist and yet continues to grow. This morning, I stood with 1,500 community members in Chicago who are fighting the epidemic of gun violence that continues to ravage so many communities. These are everyday citizens who have been called to action by the loss of a loved one, by witness of violence in their communities, or by the simple desire for change. To the families of the victims here in Aurora, there are no words that I can offer to lessen the pain. But know that our state grieves with you, that MK and I and our family grieves with you. May the memory of those that we lost today be a blessing. And more than that, may their memory fuel our work to bring peace to this state that we call home. And may God bless the brave law enforcement officers who continue to run toward danger. Thank you. And let me turn it over to Deputy Chief Rowley, or Officer Rowley. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Okay, so we will return at 9 p.m. this evening. We will have something with much more substance in terms of the progress of our investigation so far. I hope to have enough to give handouts for everyone and answer questions perhaps at that time, but we're not going to take any questions right now, but we will come back at 9 o'clock. Okay, thank you very much.
You've been listening live to the news conference there in Aurora, including the governor, the mayor of Aurora, and the police chief of Aurora. And unfortunately, some of the first words out of Police Chief Kristen Zeman's mouth were words that we didn't wish to hear. And that is that we have 5 victims who are deceased as a result of this mass shooting incident at the Aurora workplace in that suburb. We also know that 5 officers were struck by gunfire. They are alive. They have been hospitalized. Apparently 2 of them had to be airlifted from that locality in Aurora to get more serious treatment at other hospitals, but they are alive. Another officer we are hearing as well was injured in some way. Judy Sue, I should mention, now joining me on the news desk here this evening as we're moving toward the 6 o'clock hour.
First time this afternoon we're getting a timeline of what happened. 1:24 today was that first call of an active shooter coming into Aurora PD, and now a little over 4 hours later we're getting a sense of the enormity of what happened here. Chuck Gowdy has been with us all afternoon since the first calls came in. Let's go back to Chuck in the newsroom with a little bit more information about the shooter.
Judy, Allen, 45-year-old Gary Martin is, the authorities are at his apartment at this hour trying to look at his social media footprint, his computers, trying to figure out whether he had plotted this, and if so, for how long. They're also looking at whether or not he had some connection to any other people, may have told them about what his plans were that resulted in this very deadly day that we now know 5 dead. Former co-workers of his, and of course he ended up dead as well on the floor of this plant. Gary Martin, the I-Team has now learned, also had a violent past, at least a 1995 conviction for aggravated assault, a felony in Mississippi. We don't have an Illinois rap sheet on him yet. Not sure if there was one, but we do know, we have now confirmed that Martin had a 1995 conviction, again, for aggravated assault, felony assault in the state of Mississippi. Not sure if he hailed from Mississippi, whether he was working down there, passing through, going to school there, or what the situation was. But clearly, at least at one point in his history, he had a run-in with the law. Today, he had a much more serious.
All right. Welcome back to Disclosure TV. As you just saw, they wrapped up the press briefing from the Aurora Illinois Police Department. As you know, the suspect was killed, and
he was sentenced from that.
5 people have been killed.
Because it was a conviction, not sure what it was.
And you know, this is just a horrible, horrible thing. As a matter of fact, I was just talking about a mass shooting with a friend just hours before this happened. Excuse me. And I know it's bad to say, but I felt like it was time to have one. You know, it wasn't. It's like it had been too long, and as most conspiracy people know, and most alternative media, we'll call it that, as most of them know, there comes to be a pattern to such events like this. And there always is a pattern for some reason, and we find those patterns, and we know when it's about time for something to happen. And we get good at digging up sources, we get good at investigating, we get good at finding patterns.
I think just out of
so, as I was showing you right before the press briefing, I showed you the 911 call. I showed you the initial police response.
The Kane County Bomb Squad, you see that.
And now I'm going to go back and show you the actual shooting event that happened. This is the shooting while it was taking place. Someone from behind the factory caught the shooting on video. Police don't have this. The media does not have this. So I'm going to show you the video.
And tie up all of these things and make sure that nothing happens to them.
I'm going to show you the video right now, and if you're easily disturbed about things, this does not show anybody getting shot, but as you know, while the shots are being fired, people are being shot. So if you have kids or anything like that, you might not want them to watch it, especially if they know what's going on. So here's the video. This is the video of the suspect, which is Gary Martin. This is the person that is shooting.
Oh my God.
As you can see there, you saw the flashes of the light. I'm going to play it again. I did slow it down just a tad bit. I'm going to show you again because if you don't hardly see it, you can see the gunshot flashes going off inside the building on the back side of the building. And you can see it. Just watch it again closely. There's one gunshot. 2, 3.
Oh my God.
Maybe 4 gunshots. Maybe 3, maybe 4. But at least 3 from what we saw. So just as you know, nobody has the 911 call. Nobody has that video. As of right now, the mainstream media doesn't have it. They are not reporting the video. They are not reporting the 911 call. And I'm glad. I'm not glad that I scooped it, but I did scoop it. If this was sweeps week for the media, I would be sweeping right now. But just as I said, this is a sad situation. As I said, we were just talking about this. I've been on the air for about 3 or 4 hours now. I'm sure my video is being recorded over. So I'd like to keep some of my stuff, happening and going, some of the stuff that I've recorded. But I'm going to try to keep going as long as I can. It's almost 7 o'clock. And as I've said, this is a live feed for Disclosure TV, an alternative media source from different than your mainstream media. We don't bullshit here, basically. And I was just updating people on what's going on. And I hope everyone's okay. Other than we pray for the people that were injured. We pray for the people that are dead. And we pray for their families. A lot of people aren't religious people, but you know what? It's not going to hurt you to say a small prayer. Whether you're into religion or not, it's not going to hurt. So, as I said, this is Disclosure TV. We are live with ABC7. They are, there's, I think that's California, I'm pretty sure. I used to live there, so I'm pretty sure that's who I have up. I do like ABC7. And as you see on the screen, it is a workplace shooting in Kane County. That's Kane, Kane County, Illinois. 45-year-old man, Gary Martin, walked into his workplace and started shooting people, basically. That's what he did. So we're going to get back to that. I don't know how many people is watching my stream right now, but I can check. So, like I said, I do have the videos from the 911 calls. I have the videos for the first responders' response. And I also have a video of the shooting. as I said, I don't know if anybody can hear me or not. As I said, I guess so. I thought I was having a technical difficulty right then. I don't know if anybody can hear me or not. As I guess so. I thought I was having a technical difficulty right then. So we're going to get back to the live feed, and for anybody that that shows up on my channel, we do have a chat. The live chat is open. You can talk amongst yourselves. You can ask me a question. We can talk about whatever.
Get it either through our news app or right here on ABC 7. And I'm thinking right now, as officers and detectives are working on this individual's his apartment where he was living, Gary Martin's apartment. Also, what they were confronted with when they arrived at that facility, just the sprawling nature of it. The police chief saying it's 29,000 square feet. Wow. So to even know where to go, obviously perhaps the initial 911 callers, if they were fortunate enough, they were able to direct police to a door. But even, as Chuck said, that door itself, of course, is in some way a trap in that the shooter is there waiting for them quickly. We are going to now continue with our 6 o'clock news, Eyewitness News, right here on ABC 7 as we continue our coverage of the situation out in Aurora.
And we begin with this deadly tragedy in Aurora this afternoon. An employee at a manufacturing company walking into work and opening fire, killing 5 people we now know. And then the gunman shot and killed by police. Tonight, 5 officers are still recovering from wounds suffered in that shooting.
You've been with us, but we have a team of reporters in Aurora right now on the scene there.
We're going to start right now at police headquarters, where authorities just finished an update for us. ABC 7's Sarah Schulte begins our coverage for tonight. Sarah.
Well, Judy, the Aurora police chief certainly gave us news we did not want to hear. As you mentioned, 5 people inside that plant were killed. What is unclear at this point as on whether one of those 5 is the shooter. They said they're going to try to get that information to us as soon as possible. And again, as we mentioned, 5 officers were shot as they ran towards the gunfire. The shooter is an employee of that plant, 45-year-old Gary Martin. The police chief says at this point she does not know what the motive is. Multiple calls of an active shooter came in at 1:24 this afternoon. 4 minutes later, police were on the scene. The chief says that officers were fired upon immediately as minute they came inside that plant. The chief, the mayor, and Governor Pritzker spoke just a short time ago.
Several teams of officers went inside to locate and engage the offender. The building is 29,000 square feet, and when they located the offender, they engaged in gunfire with him, ultimately killing him.
It's a shame that a cold and heartless offender would be so selfish as to think he has the right to take an innocent life.
I want to begin by acknowledging the amazing work of the Aurora Police Department and Chief Zeman and all of the men and women who were first responders and every single law enforcement officer involved in securing this scene. You rushed toward danger, and in doing that, you saved countless lives.
Governor Pritzker also offering his condolences to the families of those 5 victims. Again, unclear at this point on whether the shooter is one of those 5. Hopefully we're going to have more of that information coming up. Also, as you mentioned, they did not answer any questions. They are going to have more details tonight here at police headquarters at 9 o'clock. Live in Aurora, Sarah Schulte, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you guys.
All right, Sarah, thanks. The shooting happened at the Henry Pratt manufacturing facility. It's kind of in a residential area, though, and as a result, it's near schools. All of this on the southwest side of Aurora, and classes were in session today.
We're going to check back in with our Alexis McAdams. She was our first crew on the scene there at the plant, and she caught up with several families who obviously had some very anxious moments this afternoon. Alexis.
Yeah, Judy, very anxious and very worried as they waited for their kids to get dropped off here in this neighborhood from school. And then when they noticed there was a big delay, them checking their emails and checking with those schools who were on lockdown. Once that lockdown was lifted, they were able to relax a little bit as those kids were able to make their way home. Now, take a look at this. This was earlier here at the scene. We know so far 5 civilians dead, 5 City of Aurora police officers injured, and we're still waiting to hear more specific information on the injuries at this point. Aurora police telling us Yes, they responded around 1:30 this afternoon. Police said 2 of the 4 first officers on the scene were fired upon immediately. More officers arrived as backup and were also fired upon. We talked with neighbors and people who live in this area. They've lived here for years around this major facility here in this quiet neighborhood in Aurora. They say they heard more than a dozen gunshots, looked outside and saw multiple agencies with shields and saw lots of tactical gear as they tried to get inside and keep everyone as safe as they could.
Me and my husband were coming back from the store, and I saw the first squad car pull up, and then there was just like hundreds just going right through my street. And I told my husband, I said, we have to go on lockdown.
I just looked out and seen cars flying by, and until I came outside, I just seen like a lot of things going on, and kind of went on my phone, and then I seen that there was an active shooting.
Yeah, and Henry Pratt Company, a huge manufacturing facility here in this neighborhood in Aurora. So people we talked to who live around here that walked outside and saw this chaotic scene, still trying to check in with family members, friends, other neighbors who work at that facility, hoping and praying they were okay, and still trying to find out more about those who were injured. Like we said, 5 civilians reported dead at this point, and 5 City of Aurora police officers were injured in this shooting. It's a story we'll continue to follow. For now, we're live in Aurora. I'm Alexis McAdams, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you.
Okay, Alexis, our investigative reporter Chuck Gowdy has been tracking information all afternoon for us. And Chuck, we were live on the air when we heard from a man who saw the shooter this afternoon.
We did. Judy and Alan, we'll hear from him in just a moment, but we also now have late information from a law enforcement source concerning 45-year-old Gary Martin, the man named as the shooter by authorities. We are being told by law enforcement sources that Martin was informed this afternoon that he was being fired from this company, and that it was during his termination meeting with people at the company that our sources say he produced a gun and started firing. He then went into the plant and started firing as well. What you're seeing now is the shooter's apartment in Aurora. Authorities there trying to develop evidence that may show whether or not there were additional people who knew about what he was planning to do, threats that may have been made against executives of the company or co-workers at the company leading up to what happened today. But again, the latest information that we have from law enforcement sources familiar with the case is that 45-year-old Gary Martin was told today that he was being fired from the company where he had worked for about 15 years as an assembler, and that it was during that termination meeting that he produced a gun. When he went into the plant then with that gun, he obviously had encounters with several people, including a man named John Probst, who saw him arrive for work at 7 o'clock this morning, and then saw him as well as he was prowling the floor of the plant with the gun.
He said that this person was shooting, and he come running down. He was bleeding pretty bad, and the next thing you know, he went walking back up front, and we heard more shots. And then I said, hey, well, we just left the building. That come running back to us, that he started to open up in the room, and he said he was shooting everybody. So he walked right, I'd say within 20 feet, and I mean, going up the aisle, and then next thing I know, from one of the other guys come running back and said that he started opening fire.
John Probst, a co-worker, he'd been at the plant for more than 40 years. No good explanation why he was spared today, but he did speak with us after he managed to safely get out of the plant without being shot. Gary Martin, the 45-year-old man identified by police as the shooter, he also has a criminal history. The I-team learning that in 1995 he had a conviction for aggravated assault, a felony in the state of Mississippi. We're still working to figure out whether he had any similar criminal convictions in the state of Illinois or anywhere else that could lend some explanation as to what kind of a person we were dealing with, who showed up today to be fired and decided to settle the score with a pistol.
Chuck, I want to just ask you, from the sources who gave you that information, if I hear you correctly, they are saying that he went into that termination meeting with the gun on him, or are they saying that he was fired, then he went outside, got the gun, for instance, from his car, and came back in?
It's unclear, but it would seem, based on the chronology that we're being told, that he knew that there was a meeting today to offer up some type of job action against him, and that he came prepared with the gun. Whether the gun was on him or whether he excused himself to go to the bathroom and went to get the gun is not real clear. It would appear, though, that it happened in fairly rapid order.
And Chuck, do you know from your sources at this point how many people were involved in that termination meeting?
I don't know, and there is still a matter at this hour of notifying next of kin of the 5 people who were killed. So I'm hesitant to say the details of that particular meeting and how it came down, but it certainly seems important that it provides the context of what was happening at the hour just before this occurred. You know, these termination appointments that happen when people are either laid off or fired, they can be a real problem, and companies have come up with ways to try to deal with those to keep their own people safe. I mean, all the way, you know, to having off-duty police officers in the room when people are being informed that they're about to be fired because they don't want what happened today to happen, and today it did.
Precisely. And Chuck, let me ask you too, perhaps there's some clarity here. I believe our Sarah Schulte brought this up as well, and it has to do with the number of people who are deceased at this point. 5 victims deceased is what the police chief said. What I'm asking you is whether you know, is the gunman among those 5, or is he within the 5 victims, or is the gunman a separate person who's deceased?
Yeah, we're just talking about the discrepancy in that, because clearly the news conference, as you suggest, said that there were 5 people shot and killed, and that the gunman was also killed. So we're not certain at this point. We were given different information after that was said during the news conference that tended to conflict with it, but we're trying to figure it out, and we'll report it out as soon as we can.
All right, Chuck, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. And right now we're going to share with you a little bit of the police radio traffic that came through this afternoon as the initial calls were coming in about the active shooter.
Aurora's EMS box to the 4th level for the active shooter incident at 641 Archer Avenue. The scene is not secure.
And now we know those calls initially coming in at 1:24 today.
And so this is a picture of the shooter.
And at 1:28, officers responding to the scene and facing gunfire. We now know the suspect, 45-year-old Gary Martin, is dead at the scene. We are trying to confirm if he is among the 5 victims that police authorities are describing as deceased or outside of that number. We also know at this point 5 officers were injured, struck by gunfire. They are reported to be in stable condition tonight.
I want to mention, too, and we did earlier this afternoon, but just to bring it to your attention, people are weighing in, of course, on what's happened there in West Suburban Aurora. The president tweeting about this particular shooting. And here's what he said. Great job by law enforcement in Aurora, Illinois. Heartfelt condolences to all the victims and their families. America is with you. I believe when that tweet went out a little bit earlier, we didn't even know at that point in time just how many people had lost their lives. But 5 civilian victims lost their lives in the shooting today.
And the mayor of Aurora tonight, when we heard him talk about this just a short time ago, saying that we need your support tonight, the entire city of Aurora, and that we need to repair prayers, that this has been a very dark day for Aurora.
He called it a horrific tragedy. Mayor Richard Irvin went on to say that this will be a long and painful healing process, but then with optimism, he said, we will get through this. We will heal. And we've seen, of course, over time, indeed, people do just that, but it is a very, very painful day for the city of Aurora and for all of us here in the Chicago area.
Very emotional afternoon, and you can imagine everybody who has been watching our coverage. By the way, we have been on the air since 2 o'clock this afternoon as soon as we heard that the initial calls were coming in about an active shooter situation inside this plant. And then, of course, throughout the afternoon, we have been able to connect with some of the residents on the scene, some of the co-workers who ran out of that plant in a hurry as they heard the gunshots. And we have heard from nearby residents who took in some of these co-workers as they were standing out in the cold. Of course, they ran out without their jackets. It's a freezing cold afternoon, and some of these neighbors coming to the rescue.
So let's listen to that. We have some on the phone right now. We've been hearing some of those people talking throughout this afternoon, Judy, and I know you mentioned it. Like you said, the workers who were escaping from their workplace, and it was an escape, were just simply trying to get to the closest place they could find where they could find some sanctuary. And the people who were immediately around there in their homes, often they just banged on a door or whatever and said, "Let me in," because they needed to find that type of an assistance.
Yeah, Gabriel is one of the residents that we talked to. He happened to be working from home, heard the commotion, looked out the window, and saw John Probst, who was one of the witnesses, one of the co-workers who ran out, standing outside with a couple of other co-workers in the cold without jackets. Police officers on the scene, SWAT teams down the block. He opened up his door. The officers reassured him that everything was okay at that point. He let those co-workers in, shut the door, and sheltered in place.
We are going to take a short break right now. We'll be right back with more coverage in just a moment.
At Value City Furniture, we know great moments deserve great furniture. Come shop our President's Day sale going on now, and the more you buy, the more you save store-wide. Or enjoy 48 months special financing. Only at Value City Furniture.
Improving your home can be easy. Find all your home improvement needs with one visit to the Home and Garden Show this weekend only at the Arlington Racecourse in Arlington Heights with free admission and free parking. For details, visit homeshowarlington.com.
You think this is fun for me? You think I'm having fun?
Well, it certainly wasn't much fun defending your exit. Do you have eyes on the target?
Is it her?
I can't tell from these photos. I need better shots.
All right, while they're having a break on the live feed, I just put up the picture for Gary Martin. He is a 45-year-old black male. He was brought into Henry Pratt Company, and where he told he was being laid off or fired. I believe he knew he was being fired, and he brought in a gun and started shooting people. So his picture is up on the screen, and I'm pretty sure the media doesn't even have that yet. But I want to go back and show people what I do have, which is the 911 call and the shooting as it happened, and the police first response. All right, next I'm going to show you, or let you listen to the 911 call. All right, next I'm going to show you.
55 units. Reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5-shot, multiple DOAs. 5-shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse. Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units en route.
Chicago 591 Chris Boat.
5K91, go ahead.
Chicago 531, just go patrol this favorite more to the 2, show me en route to Aurora.
539-174.
516, can you send that information out for I-1?
516-10-4.
Cheryl 576, I'm en route code 2 from New Lenox area.
576-10-4.
Chicago 579, I'll be en route code 2 for Manhattan.
So next, I'm going to show you the actual shooting. It does show the shots being fired. It shows us the flash from the gun. So if you all don't want to watch that, it doesn't show anybody getting killed, but it does. But as you do know, people were killed, and so I have to tell you all that. So here is the, if you don't want to watch it, then don't. But it doesn't show anything bad or anything like that. It just shows the flashes of the gun as it's going off. And here's that video now.
Oh my God.
I will play that video again. I had to slow it down because it's really fast. So I'll play it again. So I'm going to play it again for you. That way you can see the flashes through the windows of the Henry Pratt Company as Gary Martin goes through the factory shooting people. Like I said, he killed 5 people. He went on a rampage because he was called in for a meeting to where he was going to be laid off. And Gary Martin is a 45-year-old black male in Aurora, Illinois. He was or is employed by the Henry Pratt Company. He was a large valve assembler. He worked on the factory floor. And he may have been just a sad individual. You know, there's nobody knows the reason behind that. The FBI is at his home. They're combing through his home. They're combing through his social media posts. This is the only picture we could find of him. As a matter of fact, this photo may be shown on the mainstream media later on, but as far as I know, this is the only photo I could find of him, and as I know, I'm the first one to show it. So I'm going to replay that video of the shooting real quick and let you all have a look at it. I slowed it down as much as possible to where you all can see the flashes. They are inside the building. You have to look at the glass and you'll see all the flashes. I'll try to enlarge it for you as much as I can.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So there is the video of Gary Martin going into Henry Pratt Company, committing murder, committing a mass shooting. You have seen it here first on Disclosure TV. No one else has this. No one else has Gary Martin's picture. No one else had the 911 call. I'll play that over for you. And then after that, I'm going to go off air and do some more research and investigating, and I'll get back with you probably tomorrow or the next few days.
District 5 units, reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5-shot, multiple DOAs, 5-shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse, Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units en route.
Chicago 5K1 Dispo.
5K91, go ahead.
Chicago 5K1 Dispo. Patrolling the state, Brickmore to the 2, show me en route to the Aurora.
5K91, 10-4.
Oh my God.
516, can you send that information out to where I was?
516, 10-4.
Cheryl 576, I'm in route code 2 from New Orleans area.
576, 10-4.
Chicago 579, I'm in route code 2 from Manhattan.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.